Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone in between or irrespective of that binary. Welcome to Tabletop Roulette Live. We are an actual play anthology live stream that features a rotating cast of players, GMs, and games, specifically focused on uplifting the voices of people from marginalized communities. You can find us on Twitter at TTRPG Roulette, where you can follow us for news about our companion podcast, Tabletop Roulette, which drops episodes every Friday. We stream every Sunday at 2 p.m. PST or 5 p.m. EST, which is now if you're listening to this live. If you're listening to this later on the podcast, then it's whenever. You can call me Andy because that's my name. I use he, him pronouns. I am the creator of Tabletop Roulette, the originator. Today, I will be playing the hero in Anyone Can Wear the Mask, which we will get to in a little bit. In the meantime, we are joined by, let's just go left to right. From me, Dusty.
Hi,
How do I
I'm
fix the
Dusty.
crackling on my audio?
I don't know. That's a other producer question. But as for me, I am Dusty. I use he, him. You've probably heard me either on the stream or I am a GM sometimes, player on Tabletop Roulette as well. You can also find me on my own stuff at From Dust to Dice, Dusty Podcasts. And yeah, and then we'll hand it off to Jeff.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff Stormer. I am a podcaster, game designer, and the unofficial official LARP designer of the Olive Garden restaurant. They'll respond to my tweets eventually, I'm sure. You can find my work at jeffstormer.com. You can find me on Twitter at Party of One Pod, as I am the host of the Party of One podcast, which is an actual play podcast focused on two-player role-playing experiences. I'm also the co-host of All My Fantasy Children, but that is not All My Fantasy Children is a character creation, storytelling, and world building podcast. I don't want to not give that show the shine. I got halfway into it and then was like, I'm doing too many plugs. I got to pull out. But like, that's not fair to
plug all
that
the
particular
things.
show. But the thing that I'm here today for is I am the creator of Anyone Can Wear the Mask, which is a superhero role-playing game for 3 players about a superhero, a villain, and the city that they share. That is the game that we are going to play today. I'm going to be playing our villain. I have a whole bunch of super villains sketched out. I can't wait. Should we just dive right in, or do we want to talk about anything first?
If y'all ready, I think we just dive right in.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
All right, let's go ahead and dive right in. I'll explain a little bit about what the game is, and then we'll get right into it. Anyone Can Wear the Mask is a superhero game specifically inspired by Spider-Man, Superman, stories about big, larger-than-life heroes protecting their home from all kinds of threats. It is a game where the hero will always save the day, but the question is, can they save everyone, and what happens when they can't? Our hero is going to be faced with a series of threats, about one an issue. We'll be telling the story in a turn-based, cyclical, sort of issue-based format, similar to a comic book. We'll go week by week, issue by issue. Challenging new threats will emerge. Depending on how the play goes, you'll save some people, you'll lose some people. Eventually, the hero will be confronted by their grand ultimate nemesis, and they will fail, they will come back stronger, and they will ultimately save the day, because that's what superheroes do. So we've done a little bit of our prep work in advance. The first thing that we need to do in Anyone Can Wear the Mask is we don't really get to know our hero until we get to know the city that they live in. And so I'm going to throw it over to our city player, and that is Dusty. Dusty, tell us about the city that our story takes place in.
So far, the big thing that I came up with, this is going to be the city of Esperanza, the city of hope. Imagine this is going to be a city kind of like Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to see like if y'all wanted it to be big city, because I'm thinking it's either somewhere between not metropolis, but like, a big city to like big city. And
yeah, I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I could go either way. I feel like those are both good options that I'm excited about, so I am open to suggestion.
Yeah, I'm very decisive. I know. I'm also good either way. I think it
let's-
might be better if we kept it from being too big.
Okay.
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 So the other thing that we need for cities, for the city,
Mhm.
is 4 distinct neighborhoods, locations, areas, things in the city that we kind of want to see.
Mhm.
I have a thought, but I want to throw it over to Dusty if you've given any thought to like neighborhoods that you want to appear in Esperanza.
So in Esperanza, the only things like I have some stuff written down, but I kind
Mhm.
of like wanted to throw it around. So I had this idea of this an area called Via de Rosa, which is I kind of wanted to be like a big, kind of like how there's Central Park in New
Mhm.
York,
Sure.
but like a big like kind of like area that's it's slash park slash like tourist trap
I gotcha.
slash
Sure.
place like that. I had also the idea of maybe like there's a college campus there,
I
like
love
a
it.
big thing. I call it a college EU, College of Esperanza University, um, or just EU,
I love
Esperanza
it.
University. As far as that those are the two kind of things I was kind of thinking. I was wondering what y'all wanted to add to it.
So something that jumped out to me immediately, you mentioned like Northern California, and when I hear Northern California, like I would love there to be on the outskirts of Esperanza, I would love there to be like wine country, like some
Ooh,
vineyards and like big open kind of fields, like very, kind of scenic rolling hills. Like
uh-huh,
it
uh-huh.
is, kind of I think it's a little bit I almost pictured a little bit like antagonistically, like it's a little bit of like the upper class. It's a little bit of the people that a little bit like I hate it a little bit, but I think it's
Yeah.
nice to have it. Like
No,
just
I
because like
yeah.
I can't think of Northern California without having wine country there.
This is super true. Like, yeah, you definitely go and like it's on the outskirts of town, so you have to drive maybe like an hour to get there
Yeah, yeah,
normally.
yeah.
Because that's how cities are in California.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah, you get there and it's very much like the pompous people's but it's still like a nice area and still part of Esperanza.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ooh, okay.
My main thought, since Jeff mentioned Spider-Man, I am getting a lot of inspiration from the better Spider-Man, which would be Miles Morales. Uh, so since I'm basing a lot of my sort of feel for this game off of the Miles Morales PS5 game,
uh-huh.
I really would like to have sort of like a downtownish, like a big city type area, like a lot of like high-rise apartments and like buildings crammed in together type of neighborhood area.
Okay, okay. I actually really like that. I imagine like it would exactly be like downtown. So this is where like a majority of like people would go for like businesses, for
Mm-hmm,
work,
mm-hmm.
like schools and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, 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 okay.
I don't have a name for it, but that's the kind of feeling I wanted to sort
I
of
mean,
get from it.
we could just call it downtown.
Yeah, yeah. Downtown Esperanza.
Downtown Esperanza. So okay, so far I've kind of like I've written down the suits as well to write it through. So I have the diamonds would be downtown.
Mm-hmm.
I have hearts as Via de Rosa, clubs as Esperanza Vineyards, and then spades as EU, Esperanza University.
Which ones did you say was the university, and which one was Via de Rosa?
Via de Rosa was hearts,
Got
spades
it.
was university.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So, the only thing is, and this is probably something that I need to address in the rules at some point. We might shift those a little bit based on when we get to know canon, the hero, just based on like where they're most comfortable, because it will kind of line up with like how they map as a hero. But it's good to have this as a basis, especially since some like 2 of these suits probably won't change. Which brings us to our hero. I've got some questions to throw to you, Andy, to get to know our hero.
I've got some answers.
Fantastic. I love it when people are prepared. Um, so the first question is, how powerful is your character on a scale from street level vigilante to living god?
Definitely not living god. So Cannonball's powers are that he can control gravity, but
Mhm.
only on himself.
Okay.
So the way he sort of combats crime is like he can't make his enemies like float, but he can make himself like thrown into them,
Okay.
as the name Cannonball might imply. So
Mhm.
I think I'd say he's probably closer to gifted with great power, but he
Okay.
might
Sure.
be like he's still learning. So it's probably somewhere between that and friendly neighborhood hero.
Got it. Perfect. And that gives me an idea of what Cannonball does. Where did these powers come from?
I don't think he exactly knows. He
Okay.
woke up one morning and did not have control of his gravity. So, like, he woke up and was just kind of floating up to his bedroom ceiling. Over time, he's learned to control them a little bit just through trial and error, but there's still a lot of practice going on.
Got it. Okay. And last but most importantly, how do you help this city? Are you the hand of the people helping them so they can thrive? Are you a friendly face are you a smiling face and friend to those who need it? Are you the icon that they look up to for inspiration, or are you the Dark Knight avenging the injustice that they suffer?
I think this is tough because I think he wants to be the icon that they can look up to.
Hmm.
I don't think he's there yet, though. So I think he's probably closer to the smiling face and friend to those who need it.
Okay, so that means your strong suit is hearts. When we flip a heart, that's gonna make me roll the most dice, and when we flip clubs and spades, I'm gonna roll the fewest dice.
Okay.
So of our four neighborhoods, Via de Rosa, Esperanza University, downtown, and and the Esperanza Vineyards, where is Cannonball most comfortable?
I think he's probably most comfortable downtown. That's sort of where he grew up, where his family's apartment is, and just that's kind of his home base.
Got it. So when we flip a heart, we'll flip downtown Esperanza. What's your second most comfortable option?
I'd say probably second most would be Via de Rosa.
Okay, cool. So that'll be our diamonds, and then spades and clubs will be Esperanza University and Esperanza Vineyards. And
Sounds
so
good.
I will be playing our villain. I've written down a list of threats numbered from 2 to 10. That's going to come up as we flip cards during the game. But for now, a lot of what I'm going to do is a mystery because the villain's character gets created a little later in the game once we've gotten to know Cannonball and his story and the story of Esperanza as a city. We're going to eventually flip a Joker in our deck of cards. That's going to reveal to us that it's time for the downfall, which is when the ultimate nemesis level villain, the Dark Side 2, our Superman, comes out. And we are going to, when that happens, we will meet this character that is the worst possible person for the city and for Cannonball and for the story that we're telling. But for now, all I have to do is write down this list of threats, which I've already written down, which means that we're ready to start the game.
Let's
So here's
go.
how anyone can wear the mask is going to work from a rules perspective. Our city, Dusty, you're going to flip a card off of a deck of cards. We've pulled about
Mhm.
half of the cards out of a 52 card deck. In the back half of that deck, there is a Joker. But you're going to flip a card. Based on the suit of that card is going to tell us which of our four neighborhoods we're in. And then the number of that card is going to tell us what threat is threatening this particular part of the city. You're going to introduce the place. You're going to set the scene first. You're going to describe an ordinary location and ordinary people within this neighborhood of the city. Then I will take the reins from there, and I will put those people in danger and introduce a larger than life superheroic threat. I will roll some dice, and then I will tell Andy, here's how well you did at saving the day. Describe what happens next, and then all three of us can, do a little freeform scene play and describe what happens. But the results of which, who you're able to save, how well you're able to save, and how big of a hero you are is going to be based on the rolling of that dice. We'll go through that cycle. As we do that, we will flip some. We'll have some collateral damage to the city. We'll pull some cards out of the deck. Occasionally, our hero will get injured, and that will affect dice rolling later on. And eventually, we'll flip that Joker, which will trigger our downfall. But that's not for a little while. So, Dusty, why don't you go ahead and flip us your first card?
All right. So first one is going to be, it's a 3 of clubs.
The 3 of clubs. That puts us in Esperanza Vineyards. So
Mhm.
describe a place and some people in Esperanza Vineyards. Set the scene for us.
So like where you'd be in Esperanza Vineyards right now, let's say you are at one of these like fancy, it's not like a log cabin, but it's designed to look like one of those homely cabins. And there's currently a big group of people there for big wine testing. And so, there's like all these people talking about these bottles of wine that are older than they are by a couple centuries, and saying stuff that has like a dry note, or it tastes like Auburn or something like that. Stuff that people really don't know about, like tasting wine.
Yeah.
And you see them, just like, it's a couple people there, maybe like a half dozen, and it is kind of like a focal point of Esperanza Vineyards.
I like it. I love it. I love this sort of centerpiece of the neighborhood. And I think let's see, we pulled a 3, right? That's the number that we
Yeah.
flipped.
Yeah. So
Oh,
somewhere
wonderful, wonderful,
imminent
wonderful,
danger.
wonderful. So 3 is, I think, as this is happening, there is actually a tour outside. There's a tour happening outside. There's one of these like you walk along the vineyards for a minute, you see the grapes. There is one of the sommeliers is giving the tour, and they're wearing their whole like suit, their whole like navy blue suit with the tie and the khakis, and they're giving their talk. And they kind of slip for a minute. They slip for a minute, and like their foot, they just lose they lose their footing, right? Like, and they kind of like regain themselves, and they're like, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, listen, let me tell you the history of these grapes. And they take another step, and they completely wipe out, and they fall like into a pool of mud, and suddenly everybody's feet are kind of stuck, and like suddenly like everything just seems wet and sticky and muddy. As a this is all very perfect for me, because we've been describing this as very Northern California, and this is vineyards, and this particular villain is very appropriate for the vineyards. Everything gets muddy, everything gets slicky, everything starts to like slip and slide a little bit as a an older woman in like a billowing white and brown trim dress, with like a what's the really fancy like peacock mask, like a masquerade mask. That's the one I'm trying to think of.
Yeah.
She's wearing a masquerade mask and like a billowing white and brown dress, and she emerges, and she's like, if there's one thing that the wealthy elite of Esperanza could stand to part with, it's a bit of their dignity. And she waves her hands, and the mud under this sommelier's feet mudslides. Like, he just goes flying, and like goes flying straight into into like a bushel of into a grapevine, right? Like, smashes a bunch of leaves get crushed. He is entangled in this bush, and she's like, is there dignity and their money. Now, I'd hate to see you lose anything more than that, so I suspect it's about time for you all to pull out your checkbook. And she starts like walking around. She snatches a glass of wine out of one of these like tasters' hands and starts sipping it. This is the supervillain known as Erosia.
Ooh,
And
Love it.
she is here to raid and possibly collapse under a mudslide if she does not get her way. This focal point winery of the Esperanza Vineyards, unless our hero can stop her. So I'm gonna roll. So because this is Esperanza Vineyards, I'm rolling 1d6. And I'm gonna ask you, Andy, as I'm rolling this, what is Cannonball doing here, or how does he get the word, and how does he get here?
Okay, so I don't think I mentioned it before, but Cannonball is not an adult. I pictured him probably around 17, 18. So like
Sure.
he's not quite out of high school yet, but he's probably in like his senior year.
Okay.
I think he might be like maybe interning or has like a summer job here.
Okay. I like that.
Uh like he obviously can't serve any wine or anything, but maybe I think he's like a valet, maybe.
Okay. I
Like
like
he
that. I like
parks
that.
people's cars
Mhm.
when they come in. So yeah, I think he hears the commotion and like I think he probably like he ducks inside of whatever car it is that he's parking in order to throw his costume on
Mm-hmm.
over his valet uniform. And then he's just gonna like throw himself towards where the commotion's going on.
I love that a whole lot. I'm gonna roll my 1d6. Perfect. That is a 3. So I think what immediately happens is you dive, you throw yourself in the direction of the commotion, and Erosia sees this, like gestures up with her hand, and like a wall of mud just like grabs you and like throws you aside, and like the battle is underway. And I'm gonna throw this to you and ask you, you save the day, but it's messy. It is a rough victory. You either take an injury or you cause collateral damage. Describe like how you save the day, and then choose whether you want to have whether you want to get hurt or whether you want to cause collateral damage, and then we'll describe out how that happens.
Those are both really good options. I mean, not for Cannonball, but narratively interesting. I think like Cannonball's whole thing is just throwing himself at problems sort of over and over until they stop. So either one of those really works. I think I'm gonna go ahead and start off with an injury.
Okay.
So I think like I get thrown off to the side and Cannonball like goes sliding through the mud, manages to shift his gravity enough to like stop his feet, give him some traction, and
Mm-hmm.
sort of slides into a superhero landing. And then just like shifts his gravity in the other way to just like slam into Erosia as hard as he can.
I love that. I love that a lot. I think like I think once you slam into Erosia, she kind of like I think once you kind of get past the mud and like the slick of it all, like once you get past her kind of her blockades and her defenses, she's sort of a pushover. Quite literally, like you quite literally push her over and bowl her over. And I think like she very quickly like she is not someone that if she is caught in a physical confrontation, she is going to nope out of there as quickly as possible. And I think that's exactly what happens. You push her over, and the only way I can describe it is she seems to get swallowed up by quicksand. And
Nice.
a few bottles of wine that have been scattered around kind of get swallowed up with her, because she's not walking out of here with nothing. But I think it is immediately like, I'm out. Nope, not today, and just like disappears. But I think what happens is you kind of try to climb to your feet, and doing so, like I think like in it, I think what happens is that like it takes effort to, like, even with your gravity control powers, the mud here is so like thick and
Yeah.
binding and impossible to get through that, like, maybe it dislocates your shoulder or something. Like, it takes a monumental amount of effort to like push past all of these walls and barriers and giant clay face fists that she's like wrapping you up in, and it kind of crushes your shoulders or your ribs a little bit. So you're just like beaten to hell at the end of this.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, especially because, like, since this is part of his job and he didn't really get a chance to, like, prepare per se, he's still doing this in, like, fancy, like, uh, uniform shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, he can't get any traction. He's got to, like, throw extra effort into being able to really smash through anything.
I love that. I'm yeah, and I think that's exactly what I think. I think we see all of that happen. We see you bring down, we see you bring down Erosia. You're hurt, you're beat up, but you manage to like walk out of there in one piece. And that is sort of the end of our issue. That is the end of a turn of a standard turn in Anyone Can Wear the Mask. And with that, your renown cannonball is going to go up by 1. Anytime you save everyone, which is to say, anytime I don't roll a 1 as my high result, your renown is going to go up by 1, and like your reputation in the city is going to increase. What that means, we'll find out a little bit later in play.
Okay.
However, you also have taken an injury, and what that means is until you have time to recover from that injury, either because you push past your limits and become something greater than yourself and gain a point of inspiration, or you have a moment of downtime with a friend or ally or confidant, you have some time to recover, you're going to roll, or rather I'm going to roll 1 fewer dice in all of your scenes. Every single time you go to save the day, you are working hurt, and I'm going to roll fewer dice. If I roll 0, if I'm supposed to roll 0 dice or fewer, I'm going to roll 2 dice and take the lower result instead of taking the higher result, which is usually how dice rolling works, and Anyone Can Wear the Mask.
Gotcha. Sounds good.
All right. And so with that, go ahead and flip our next card and start our next scene.
All right. So the next one is going to be a 9 of spades.
So that puts us at Esperanza University. Where are we at the university?
Let's see. So it's just normally university. Let's say we're in the computer lab. It's a big building where everyone goes there to print stuff out, and they have to pay 30 cents per paper because it's a college university. And there's like a bunch of people, either like there's people headphones on looking at the computer just typing away madly because they have a deadline due in like 20 minutes, or just like 10 people surrounding like 3 computers just chatting and talking, like, I don't know, throwing a sports ball around while the TAs are like too tired to do anything about it. And it's like, let's say it's like right after lunch, so there's going to be like still a lot of people there, but people are slowly milling out.
So I think where we find ourselves, I think what happens is like we're in this crowded computer lab, and I think it's pretty late in the day. I kind of picture it as like all classes are kind of over, right? Like just to add that element of everyone there is tired, just to add that really good like tired computer class after hours energy, which makes when a lab tech, like when a grad student in a lab coat like tears open the door and tells everybody to get out, it adds to that energy where like it takes people a minute to register the panic in their voice. This lab tech is screaming. It turns out that they were after 72 hours of intense crunch, they had activated an engine in a science lab about 2 floors below this, which is technically like in a sub basement, but in doing so, as it turns out, they kind of maybe ignored a few safety regulations and maybe sort of triggered an artificial black hole.
Oh.
And
I think not great.
I think the floor starts to like cave in a little bit as things are kind of pulled towards this reactor in a sub basement. And so this first floor computer lab is literally starting to kind of sink into the earth as like bits of it are being pulled, and you kind of just see flashes of light from below as it seems like this entire building might collapse into this reactor and possibly the entire world. It is unclear if this reactor is not stopped somehow.
Oh dear.
The threat that I wrote for 9 was infrastructural failure, so this is where I was leading into for this. All right, and so that is the scenario that we find ourselves in. Okay, again, I'm gonna start rolling some dice. Cannonball, tell us what you're doing here, or how you get to the scene, how you are alerted to this if you're not already on the scene. Walk us through your arrival as I roll some dice and tell you how you do in stopping this.
Okay, so Cannonball, I haven't said his real name yet, is Cain Bell, Cainbell. Uh, he is, like I said, he's a senior in high school, so I think like he plans on going to EU when he graduates. So I think he's signed up for like the sort of like campus wide like text notifications. He's already signed up for those. And I imagine that one probably gets sent out about like don't go near the black hole on campus as you would do.
Sure.
So like we see him getting that text and like throwing his mask on, which is basically like a ski mask, like a black ski mask, like a bank robber might wear, which
Okay.
isn't ideal for branding, but he makes do with what he can. He's spiced it up a little bit and like tried to put his logo on there. So I think he like ducks off to throw that on and then runs straight towards this computer lab.
Cool. I love it. So I rolled because this is Esperanza University. I would normally be rolling 1 dice. However, because you are injured, I'm going to be rolling 2 dice and take the lower result, which means that
Okay.
I rolled a 2 and a 1, which means unfortunately I am taking
Oh,
a
no.
1 here.
Oh no.
So I have to
Oh,
ask
no.
you a very difficult question. Let me open the text of the rule so that I can see exactly the way it's written. You stop the threat, but despite your best efforts, you can't save everyone. Lose someone. How do you eventually manage to scrape by and stop the threat? And who can't you save?
So I think Kane has a friend that was a year older than him. They went to high school together. And Kane's probably got a crush he hasn't admitted to having on this guy. Let's call him Jonathan. He's like working as like an intern in this lab. And so like Cannonball goes crashing down into the sub basement where this black hole is opening. And he's able to like alter his own gravity. So I think he's like, as this black hole is sucking things and people in, he's like zipping back and forth and grabbing people and grabbing stuff and like trying to like he'll dash over and grab like a computer or something or like a big something big and sturdy and like shove it down into the floor and like grab a person and use his own gravity to stop them from flying off and like wrap them around it and like hold on to this. But he's just one person, and I don't think he's able to get everybody. So like he sees Jonathan flying in towards the black hole and like he goes over to try to grab him. And I think we get the panel of like their fingertips coming and like just barely not grabbing onto each other before Jonathan goes flying off.
I love it. And I think that like there's a flash of light and you don't even see everything and Jonathan is just gone and like the reactor is just shut down. And like you're able to like pull the wiring out of the last few bits of it to make sure it's not going to turn back on, but Jonathan is gone. So despite your best efforts, Jonathan is gone. And that is, I think that closing shot of just the reactor having been shut down is the end of our issue, and I think it's time for us to draw our next card.
Okay. This has gone so far so fast. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. This is a 9 of hearts.
All right, so this is Downtown Esperanza. Tell us where we are in Downtown Esperanza.
I would say in Downtown Esperanza, you are it is kind of like a bustling street. You're at like a intersection where there's like a cafe on one corner, a bookstore on the other, and then like two restaurants across the street from each other. And like it's, let's say it's like peak brunch time, and you see a bunch of people enjoying brunch
Mhm.
at this brunch place called the Half Baked Yolk, and people are drinking mimosas,
Mhm.
enjoying avocado toast, and just blissfully unaware of anything or anyone around them.
I love it. That's perfect, especially because like again, what I drew is infrastructural failure. So what I think is part of what makes the half baked yolk so popular is like it is right off from from an L train. Like it is right off the tracks. So it's like an easy walk. You couple you climb off the L. You take a stroll. It's along a
Mhm, mhm.
riverfront. Uh, and these people are so blissfully aware that they do not see that like we get the intercut of these very kind of chill brunch sipping mimosas, eating their brunch, and a runaway L train right over their shoulders. And it's like, it's like the back and forth of like, oh, this is delicious. Oh my god, this scrapple this
Mm.
bacon is like so fresh. Oh my,
Oh
this
my
is
God, yes.
runaway train car. Oh, this is oh my god. I know the mimosas are good, but have you had the Bellinis? They are simply outstanding. Runaway train car. And I think finally, like, there's a sharp turn on the train car where it just like it's going so fast that it just does not make the turn. And that is where and like we see it's coming. Actually, I'm gonna peak superhero it where I'm gonna let Cannonball describe what happens, whether it goes off the tracks towards people or not. There's a turn coming up where if it does not make this turn, if it does not slow down, it's going to go off those rails and it's basically going to collide straight with the half baked yolk. You've got a few seconds to figure out how you are going to stop this runaway train car. Tell us what happens as I roll some dice to tell you how well you perform. This is downtown, so this is your comfort zone. You are hurt though, so I am going to be rolling 2d6 and taking the higher result.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and drama this up because that's my brand. Uh, I think like Kane and his mom are out having like brunch at either the half baked yolk or nearby. And since you said he's only got like seconds to think about it,
Mm-hmm.
like he doesn't think, he just springs into action. And his mom does not know he's a hero. So this is probably going to be a discussion he has to have later.
Yep, sure.
In best case scenario. And he is just going to like take off in that direction. He's going to try to like slam himself into the car and like try to stop its momentum.
Okay.
And he's like running with his head tucked down so that like hopefully as few people see him as possible. But he's not wearing a mask or anything, so he's
Mm-hmm.
very like open and exposed.
I love it. That is very very good. So I rolled a 1
Oh,
and a
fuck.
5 and a 5.
Oh,
So you saved the
okay.
day. You
Jeff.
got it.
Oh, Jeff.
That's called drama.
Ooh,
And that is also
okay.
why rolling multiple dice, why finding opportunities to roll more dice is a good thing.
Yes.
So you managed to save the day. You rise to the occasion. You save the day. What's your great moment of heroism? What is your sort of big hero moment here?
So, I mean, everybody knows that scene from the Spider-Man movies where he's in front of the train and he's got the webs and he's like holding the train back. This is basically the opposite of that. Cannonball just charges straight at it and like throws his gravity towards it. When he hits it, like he throws his gravity down so that like his feet drag into the ground and he's just trying with all his might to stop this train from getting any further off the tracks than it's obviously going to. And like it doesn't seem like it's working at first. He's like planning foot after foot, like he's trying to run on a treadmill that's going way too fast. But the train keeps coming, and I think he's finally able to stop it, like maybe a couple of feet away from the buildings where
Mhm.
everybody's at. And like as he's trying to stop this train, we just get like thought bubbles and speech bubbles from him, and he's just like, come on, I can't let people get hurt. I can't let anybody else become a victim. I've got to do this. I need to do this. And like he barely stops it in time. And I think there's just like a panel of his head drooping and just like sweat pouring off of his face.
Grab a dice. All right, we're good. I got the dice. We saved it. No dice left behind. So yeah, and that's I think like that's the perfect ending. It's just like you grumble, and I think the detail that I want to throw out is like you crumble, right? Like we see your head drooping and you just collapse. And I think the person that I think like we see you get scooped up and like, maybe a towel goes over your face or something, like something covers your face. It's like it's a jacket, like you're like a jacket or a flannel covers your face. And we show that like it is your mother like carrying you off in the mother child, like running off with you to like put you to bed because she may not have known that you were Cannonball before today, but god damn it, you're still her kid. And superpowers or not, like that's not going to change your relationship. So like the last panel we see in the issue is you in bed, like passed out, and like your mother holding the Cannonball costume in front of her, muttering like, well, I could fix this. This is shoddy workmanship.
Oh, my heart.
So good, super mom.
All right, flip us that next card. We're going to our next
right.
scene,
All
our next
right,
issue.
Next issue. Another it's a 3 of Hearts, so another downtown scene.
Ooh, and all right, and a return appearance. I'm so excited. Where are we? What's our next location downtown?
Okay, so next location downtown, it's probably at least like a week after the runaway train. And let's say we're right outside the like equivalent of like it's a mall. So like very California thing, all the malls are outside malls. So
Yep.
there's people walking around, getting non-corporate pretzels and drinking coffee and lattes, and you see businesses going through, and people going through businesses and buying clothes. They're carrying bags. Some like there's definitely a group of like teenagers that are just there bored. Like obviously they don't have money to go anywhere, but they go hang out at the mall anyways. And it is a bright sunny weekend. Sure.
I think it is initially a bright sunny weekend. I think it's like starts out as a bright sunny weekend. We get these these outdoor mall shots, and like suddenly like a shadow falls over everyone. And like it is peak disaster movie, right? Like there's all of the shots of like the shadow falls over people, they look some very suburban people look up in absolute terror. Somebody's got like 3 scoops of ice cream, and they like look and they kind of point in terror as a wave, as now like motivated now not through praxis but through sheer revenge. Erosia on like a wave of like a tidal wave, a typhoon wave of mud is like dashing through, and she is like screaming, window smash of a building, and she's like, bring him to me now. And like people are scrambling and screaming and nobody knows what she means, and she's like, I was embarrassed by a child, bring him. And she points and like all the walls on an Apple store are just caved in. And she's like, this this is not a prim and proper event. And I think the difference is she still has the incredibly elaborate masquerade mask, but now she is wearing she's wearing jodhpurs. She's got some jodhpurs, and she's got kind of the same top that the same top that the woman in the Mummies, Rachel Weisz, the same top that Rachel Weisz is wearing in the Mummy with the jodhpurs. This is her I'm here to fight outfit.
Yep, very good. So good.
And she is coming, and she's like, a child embarrassed me. I am not going to have my reputation tarnished by a youth. You bring him, and we settle this now. And she is literally like, there is like one of those this is technically the second time an outdoor mall has come up in a game I was playing today. So there's one of those outdoor play areas where like parents leave their kids and there's nobody in there right now, but she just like levels it, right? Like hands come up and just crush all of the little play equipment and like push things to the side, and she makes quite literally a little like fighting circle. Like she's like, we do this now.
Meet me in the ring, nerd.
Meet me in the ring, nerd. And that's the scenario.
So I'm torn between Kane being one of the teens that was there bored and being there like with his mom. Like if she's set on fixing his costume, I kind of like the idea of like, yeah, I'm kind of leaning into this now. I like the idea of like her taking him to the mall, like a kid going back to school shopping, but she's buying stuff like to make a better costume for him.
She's buying survival. She's like, look, these shoes are. Look at the treads on these shoes. Look at the treads on these shoes. You're gonna like if you're gonna be running, if you're gonna be like, you're gonna want to be able to stop yourself. Look, and you're just like, Mom.
You gotta stop wearing the ski mask. The ski mask just doesn't look good, honey.
What's your honey? Listen, what's your carabiner situation? How many carabiners are you got? All right, we're gonna stop by the sporting goods store because you're gonna want to be able to clip. I would feel more comfortable if you were able to clip if you were at maybe a high distance. I would feel more comfortable.
And like I think she's like trying to find clothes that have like padding and like to stop him from like impacting into stuff, and he's like, Mom, if it's padded, it's not gonna do any damage. I can't fight people with padding.
And yeah, I love that all of this is and what do we think happens what do we think happens once like Erosia like sets the stage and is like, face me?
I think like the build or the windows of the sporting store that they're in like get blasted out with mud, and as Erosia's talking about like, I will not be like embarrassed by a child, Cannonball looks to his mom. He's like, have you got my mask? And she, if I can take control of her, I like the idea of her like. I like the idea of her like pulling his ski mask out of her purse or bag or whatever, and it's got like either like a tissue or like a piece of hard candy or something like stuck to it that he's pulling off like as he pulls the mask on and runs out to face her.
And the last thing we see before the big fight scene is just like a quick shot of her muttering like, I've got to bump that mask up my craft list.
She's just like writing on the notebook, better mask.
All right, now I'm gonna roll some dice and we're gonna see how this fight goes down. I also love Cannonball's mom. I see that in the chat and I want to recognize
Yeah,
a lot of love for Cannonball's mom.
Cannonball's
very
mom
glad I brought my mom in. She's the real hero.
Excellent. I rolled a 2 and a 6. So 6 is the best possible result. A 6 is you push past your limits and become something greater than yourself. How do you inspire people? At which time you can recover an injury or take a point of inspiration.
Yo.
Okay, so I think like I step into the ring or the circle that she's made, and I look at her and just say, "You may be calling me a kid, but you're acting like one. Who seriously? Who throws a tantrum over losing a fight? That's just not. I stopped to train the other day, and I'm not gonna lose to somebody throwing a tantrum in the mall." And
To
like,
the Wetzel's pretzels.
yeah, I think like he charges, and there's a panel of him like his thought bubble as he's charging. He's like, "Wait, I can't punch a girl in front of my mom. Wait, she's a villain, not a girl." And like he throws the gravity into his fist to just send her flying backwards into like a food stand or a store behind her, something like that.
And I think that like I think this is also the cover shot for this issue. It's like the big visual of this issue is like several giant like hands come up behind you, and you are kind of like locked in a fight with like all of them, and you're punching through constructs, and like waves are coming down and you are blowing through them, and she just keeps getting up, and every single time like we just see her get like thrown through walls, but she keeps coming back and keeps like wiping her face like one more, I've still got it left in me, until finally like she's just exhausted and she's like, I will not lose to a child. And finally like I almost don't even picture a punch. I just kind of picture like a gravity powered like shove over, and she just like collapses and is like, I'm done.
I do want to add like Cannonball like does the little push to knock her over, but he also like puts his arm behind her shoulders and like gently lowers her to the ground. He's like, I can't be mean to her in front of my mom, and just like lets go of her so that she doesn't like knock her head into the concrete or something.
But then the absolute last thing we see is that like your mom is like, he's like, it's like everybody's cheering and your mom runs up, but your mom does like kick a little dirt in her face, like, that's for messing with my kid.
I would almost want to say like after all this as well, like because you part of Rolling Six, like you inspired like everyone around you. You see like those teenagers come up, and one of them just like unknowns doing just starts slow clapping, and everyone it goes into a cheer, and one kid's like, hey yo, what's your name?
I like that a lot.
And Cannonball's gonna like put a foot up on something that just so happens to be nearby to strike, like almost like a Captain Morgan pose. And just says, you can call me Cannonball, and I'm gonna protect everyone that I can.
And with that, there's just like the cheering is going around, and like all the people are just like yelling, Cannonball, Cannonball. And then like as your mom kind of like runs in, kicks the dirt, and like kind of whisks you away.
I think even before she kicks in the dirt, there's a brief shot where like everyone is cheering and chanting Cannonball, and your mother's like with 3 other like suburbanites is like, that's my kid. That's my kid. Right now, it's my kid.
Yes, great. Mom just gave up my secret identity.
They don't know who your mom is.
It's the old Flash thing of I have no idea who this is.
Yeah, fair.
All right, time for our next issue.
All right.
And you recover your injury, so you are back up to full health.
Yes. Now that Mom knows who I am, she can take care of me, and my ribs are not as bruised anymore.
All right.
All right. So we got a 10 of diamonds.
So the diamonds puts us in the Via de Rosa.
Via de Rosa. Okay. So you're here at Via de Rosa. I would say this is kind of like, you'd probably be kind of at the center of this like huge park. There's like this huge fountain that it's like one of those fountains where people like make a wish. So there's pennies, there's quarters, there's nickels on the bottom of it, and there's just people enjoying a nice day. You could see in the background there's a huge like a field where there's people having a picnic, a kid like flying a kite, and just people like normally just enjoying having a good day. You probably even see two people like on a bench like awkwardly talking, like it's very obvious it's like their first date. So all this is happening.
And I think what happens next is because of the villain that I rolled. Hold on, I need to do a quick Google just to remind myself, just to give myself some visual notes when I describe my villain's outfit. Yeah, okay, we're good. No, we're good. What happens is immediately like chaos hits the park immediately as a bomb goes off immediately, and no one's immediately nearby, but like I think a vending machine explodes, right? Like somebody's about to go up to a vending machine and it explodes. It explodes in a way though that like cans and bottles just start flying out in all directions and people are ducking. Cans are hitting things and exploding, and people are scrambling as a gigantic guitar riff carries out over the entire park, and touching down on top of this like half exploded vending machine, wearing a black, gold, and red band jacket with big giant epaulets and a Phantom of the Opera mask over one eye, and like streaks of red in their hair. They stand up and they're like, ladies, gentlemen, non-binary friends, my fabulous killjoys of every gender, the danger days have arrived and we are here to make your life a little more exciting. And they point at a water fountain, and the water fountain sprays out like water, and somebody gets like not seriously hurt, but like gets like a little bit of a spray, and they're like, oh my god, that's hot. That is scalding hot water. And they're like, that's right, y'all, this park, it's a water park. Oh, but we mention that it is boiling hot water. You probably want to duck and weave if you want to get to your cars. Oh, speaking of the parking lot, and they point to the parking lot, and there is like a full-on like black, gold, and red tank that is like twirling its cannon in all directions, and they're like, round and round it goes, where it stops nobody knows. This is your cue to live your life. This is your cue to treasure every moment, because it might be your last. And they raise up their hands as pandemonium has hit the park because of the villain known as Danger Days.
Danger Days, that's so good.
I love them, but I have to punch them in the face.
That is the key of that is the mark of a great supervillain.
I think Cannonball is actually, I think he's actually prepared for once, in the sense that like he's out like patrolling in his new and improved costume. I don't know what his new mask looks like just yet, but clearly it's a new mask between issues. And like, I think once everything starts going off, Cannonball just like sort of steps into the panel and looks at Danger Days and just says, I don't think he stutters like that. I'm just trying to think of something cooler to say. I think he looks at them and just says, you can teach people to live their lives better without trying to risk them. That should be their decision, not yours.
And I think the second they hear that, they smile and they clap, and they're like, what better illustration for a better life, for a seizing of the moment than, and they raise their hand and they give like a flick of their wrist, and they have what like initially looks like maybe like a tennis ball, but is in fact clearly some kind of explosive, as they just like whip it at you. like they whip this sort of like grenade at you, and like it goes off in midair, and they start like flicking their wrists and pulling more of them and like hurling them at you, so that you have to like run past like a hail of grenades in order to get to them. And with that, I'm going to roll some dice. This is Via de Rosa. So this is 2 dice. This is and you're at full health, so I'm going to be rolling both dice and taking the high result. Another 1-5 combo. That second dice is really saving your life here. Also, I mentioned it in chat, but I do need to establish it's very important that we all know that Danger Days also has a half kick.
So good. So
Love it.
terrible, but so good.
So I think what happens is, what sort of like general age range is Danger Days?
I
Like,
think
what's
Danger
their
Days
group?
is probably a little bit, if they are truly My Chemical Romance like themed, they're probably a little bit older than you, so like mid-20s into early 30s. So I guess
Okay.
probably like 5 to 10 years older if they were someone that has modeled their superhero, their misguided superhero supervillain career after the aesthetic of MCR. I'm gonna say like slightly older than you.
Like the teenagers music video specifically.
Yeah.
So I think like Cannonball is, as per usual, just running straight at the problem. That's clearly never going to come back to bite him in the ass. And I think he's just like throwing his arms up in front of himself to stop the explosions and just like powering on through, doing his best to like shift his gravity in a way that like the explosions aren't going to hit him as hard.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's still taking it sort of straight on, but like in a way where he's kind of like dodging and weaving through them. And were they standing on top of something?
They're on top of they're on top of the frame of a vending machine.
I think rather than attack them, Cannonball slams into the vending machine to like knock them off of their balance. He definitely like he's trying to neutralize them without necessarily hurting them.
I like that. I think that you are able to like you shoulder check the vending machine and they kind of go flying, and they initially have no control, but they're clearly competent, right? They're clearly very good, so they kind of like do into a half flip, but they don't have full control over where they're landing, so they have to like panickedly like hit some buttons on their wrist controller to shut the water off in the water fountain, because they land in front of it, and like they still land in a pool of water, and they're like, oh, hot, oh, I don't like that. Okay, actually that's actually not bad. Actually that's kind of nice. And it's and like, but like I think that like the water fountain is still bubbling because like they blew out the like the lines of it, so like it's they can shut it off, but it's still kind of build up, and they're like, look, I don't want to catch scalding hot water to the face. What say we call them ease? What say we call it even here?
Stop the tank, stop everything from going wrong, and I want to say promise not to do this again. That doesn't feel like it's a I've never really been in this situation before. Can we just call a truce like that?
And they hit a button and the tank stops, and I for some reason in my head I'm picturing a hover tank, so it kind of like lowers back down to the ground, and they're just like, honestly, I've never really been in this situation either. I kind of don't see why not.
Okay, but if we have to fight again, I'm gonna kick your ass twice as hard. And Cannonball's just gonna like hold his hand out to shake Danger Days.
Deal, but I will use the tank if we fight again. Mainly because I didn't get to shoot it, and I feel like it's gonna be very cool.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Right?
Never fought
All
a
right.
tank before.
And the two of you shake hands, and that I think that it's we end on the handshake shot, and we go to our next issue.
Is it the Predator handshake?
Oh, it's for sure the Predator handshake.
Of course it is.
Nice.
All right. Okay, so we have 5 of clubs, which I believe means we are back at the wine country.
That we are.
Okay, so this time, instead of being like at the focal point, you are probably seeing people on kind of a tour. There's the like a driver at one of these like the go-kart style things, but with the extra long back. So it's like 4 or 5 people. They're all drinking the complimentary glass of wine, and you see them just going down the long row of the vines and all the grapes on the side, and he's like saying stuff. Yeah, so on the right there, you see those are grapevines and grapes that we use specifically for our sangria. And just talking stuff about grapes and stuff I don't know about wine, but making it sound really good.
Yeah, I think and I think what happens is what is a good natural disaster to hit at this moment where it's I mean it's California, so I kind of gotta go. It's kind of gotta be an earthquake, right? Like that's
Oh
gotta
yeah,
be the thing that
at least once every 2 weeks, yeah, it happens.
yeah, that's gotta be. I feel like we can't have a California-based hero without like at least an earthquake issue, where because like especially because like there's 2 things that I love about it, and this is me peeling back the curtain about the storytelling here for a second. It is we've had all of these very over the top villain scenes, and to have it be something that is just completely natural and expected is very good. And B, I feel like so much of what Cannonball has been challenged with has been like threats to stop or like a thing to apply force to. This is something that is very much the opposite of that, and I'm curious to see how that plays out. And so yeah, what we get is like a montage of everyone involved, like slowly like the water starts to shake, right? We see the Jurassic Park shot. And I think what happens is like for unexplained reasons, right? Like this is a baffling event. Like this is a way worse earthquake than usual, and like at this spot, the earth like schisms open, right? Like it is peak comic book earthquake where there is the cracks in the ground and things pull open and there's a bottomless pit and like people are dangling and trying to scramble. And so Cannonball, you are faced with a very real and unusual challenge, which is saving these people out of an earthquake. And with that,
So I think what happens is, like, once again, Kane is working here, and like as he feels the earth start shaking, he rushes over to where people are, and we get a series of panels that are very similar to the black hole as the earth is shaking and people are falling, and like I imagine it's because it's a comic book earthquake, like things start naturally shaking towards the giant chasm.
yeah.
So like he's doing the same thing, like just rushing from person to person, grabbing them, trying to like rush them off and get them to something that he can have them hold on to.
I love it. So I rolled a 2. So are you going to take an injury, or are you gonna have collateral damage?
I took the injury last time. Let's go with the collateral damage this time.
Okay. So the collateral damage starts. So I think that makes sense, right? Like I think that like no matter how good your powers are, you're not going to be able to repair the stuff that has been damaged here.
Right.
But I do think like before this building like collapse, before there's like a major building collapse, you're able to like grab people. You're doing a lot of like using your personal gravity to like leap from surface to surface, grab people and bring them to safety. And like but like we still watch buildings collapse and go into the thing. And I think the thing that you see, the cliffhanger that I'm going to leave this issue on, that we'll explore later, maybe, I don't know, it's an interesting thing to leave it on, is that like you definitely see, like as you're saving the last person, who is somebody like doing the full cliffhanger, dangling on a ledge, you're watching their fingers slip, you jump and you save them, and you look around them, and there is strange looking like tech, like pulsating lights and wiring and like circuits and things under the ground where this schism has happened. There is definitely like unusual tech under here that is, every time the lights flicker, more earthquake starts. But you don't have time to like study it or like analyze it or like get pictures of it or anything, because you're too busy saving people. But there's definitely like a 2-page spread of you grabbing someone, and like maybe you're holding on to a ledge, and because you've got your gravity powers, like you're able to do it kind of effortlessly. But
Yeah.
like you look around and it's very kind of Jack Kirby tech all kind of around you, of like pulsating lights and weird colors, and you're like, something is wrong here.
Don't have time.
I've got more important things, but there's something up here. All right.
Interesting.
Since we have caused collateral damage, Dusty, pull the top card off of that deck and set it aside.
Okay.
Because that is what it represents. We've caused damage to the city, which means that card is put aside.
Okay.
Which means that we're a little bit closer to our downfall, and it means that we get it is a physical representation of the damage caused to the city.
Okay. Okay.
Which means it's time for our next card.
All right. Next issue. 7 of clubs. So it's still at the vineyards. I would definitely say like this next scene is perhaps like maybe even the next day or the next couple days, because Kane is an employee here. They had everyone come together, and like there is this manager here, which is just like the most like preppy, like blonde hair, blue eyes, California you can have, polo shirt with the buttons up like way too open, like super bright white shorts for some reason. He's like, I'm sorry, y'all. Unfortunately, there's kind of like a whole earthquake. So for the rest of summer, I am gonna have to let you go. I can't offer leave pay. So yes.
And I think as they're saying this, there is so the number that you drew was a 7. And I'm going to take the prompt for number 7 in the opposite direction because of what we've established so far. But in doing so, I'm going to invoke some of my other favorite comic book tropes. We've heard here glass shattering from behind the manager as like a door is kicked open, and I think Cannonball, like your jaws drop and like your shoulders like it's like half your shoulders sag and like you have this weird mix of your shoulders sag and also you perk up at the same time, because in the back of your head you get glimpses of the people behind the manager, and you're like, oh, I think I'm gonna fight a tank today. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna fight a tank today. Because like clearly Danger Days' gang is here like smashing up and here like tearing down this fancy winery. Clearly, like these are the fabulous Killjoys, the Joker gang of Danger Days. And I think like you see this, and they all have similar outfits, but all uniquely styled in very cool and edgy ways. They've all got laser guns because of that music video with My Chemical Romance, and Grant Morrison is there for some reason, and they've all got laser guns, and they're like pointing and they're shooting things, and they're like, life is wild. Life is wild. Sometimes strange things happen, and the manager is like holding up their hands, and they're like, I don't want any trouble. I'm just trying to do my business, and they're like, that's life, buddy. And they start smashing things down. And I think you get a text, Cannonball. I don't even know how they get your number, but you definitely get a text like, "Hey, had a falling out with the group. Probably need to talk. Don't know what they're planning." Signed
Sorry.
DD.
Frowny face.
Frowny face DD.
I think
TTYL.
we get like, I think Kane responds with just like not even words. I think he just sends like the angry red face emoji and then slides the phone back into his pocket as he stands up, because I imagine this meeting took place and they like had everybody sit down and probably brought in like donuts or had a pizza or something to soften the blow. And like Kane now in cannonball mode looks over at him and just says, "Oh, come on. They promised." And he's just gonna like charge in and like, rather than attacking, he's gonna like attempt to get the guns away from them, and then he wants to punch a tank.
All right. I love it. I think the tank is outside, and I think like as this is happening, I think like we're seeing text bubbles interspersed with the fight. Like we're seeing text bubbles of just like, "Also, can you get my tank back? Also, tell Morris, you are absolutely wrong. I Googled it. You need to fact check." And it's just, like, and it's half details of what the actual falling out was, and just half like bitter roommate fight things of like I double checked the chore wheel, and it was absolutely somebody else's turn to rig the outdoor mall playground with explosives. That was not my turn. That was not my responsibility.
I
All right,
swear,
that
I
is-
didn't drink the milk from the carton this time.
You can look in the sink. There were glasses. I will acknowledge I did not do the dishes today. That's on me.
Just
All right, I
for
rolled
the
a two.
record, Cannonball is not taking time to like check these messages.
You have 47 unread text messages.
Yeah.
And so I rolled a 2. So are you going to take an injury here, or are you going to cause collateral damage?
I think it makes sense for some more collateral damage
It's
because
not a
Cannonball lost his job today. Danger Days broke their promise. He's gonna fight a tank. I don't see any way that this isn't collateral damage.
Yeah, I think so. I think that I think you're fighting. I think you're able to get the guns away from them, but like you get outside, and I think that's when we see the text bubble that says, "Also, if you see the tank, can you let me know?" And it's like right outside, and like it is pointed right at you, and like a good chunk of this vineyard is blown away when you duck and weave out of the way of the first cannon shot. And I think that the big climactic ending here is like there's a fair amount of collateral damage, but the trope that I want to invoke here, like in the big ending, is something explodes. Like somebody pulls a gun and an explosion happens in front of them, and Danger Days like lands on top of the tank, and we have an old-fashioned hero-villain team up to bring down this new threat.
Yes.
And they're like,
Love it.
and they stand up, and the first thing they say is just like, "For the record, none of this was my idea. The promise stands."
Okay, but from now on, you can't let people borrow your tank.
That's fair. And then they jump down, and the two of you commence fighting as a team.
Love it.
And yeah, I think that like we get the cool page spread of you fighting a tank and like punching a tank shell back in the other direction with a super punch that
I
it
was gonna
flies into the
ask if
tank
I
and
could do
explodes.
that.
Yeah, 100%. It like goes back and like blows up on the tank, and we get a quick shot of Danger Days like, "Ah!" But like the two of you smash up a tank. And that is the end of our issue. Dusty, go ahead and pull a card. Discard a card for collateral damage.
Mhm.
and then we can either take a break or go through for our next round.
It's up to y'all. I'm good with keep on going, but y'all are doing more of the talking.
Yeah, I'm good to keep going.
Okay, let's keep going. We have 4 cards left in the first half of the deck. I'm thinking I might pull a few cards out of the back half of the deck just to tighten up our time frame a little bit.
All
But I
right,
think
all
we're
right.
doing pretty. But I think in terms of we're just about through the first half of the deck.
All right, let's see. So we got a 10 of spades, which means we're back at Esperanza University. So this time, the tech lab has obviously been closed, which really there's not much left of it. There's just kind of like the doors there with nothing around it, but still like caution tape around the doors to make sure you can't go in. Across the way is the library. And I think that's where most people have kind of gathered. There's no like a bunch of computers there, but you see people on their laptops. You see like, at least 4 kids just face downs on the table, obviously passed out because they're cramming for some kind of thing. And it is, it's the library, so it's as quiet as a college library could be.
I love it. And this was a 10. Why do I have Danger Days listed on here twice? Hold on. I gotta change something, or else we're gonna way
Danger
too
Days
much
is
Danger
that
Days.
important.
I stand Danger Days.
I mean, same, like big same. But I gotta think of like, let me see. This is going to be. Okay, I know exactly what this is. This is, I think somebody is reading a book, and I think like they're reading a book, and like we just kind of see a slow shot of their like face. They look up, and they look like dead in the camera, or they look dead at the panel, and they open their mouth in a scream. But like there are dialogue balloons happening in the background. There's like library conversations happening in the background, and it is clear that this person has like screaming with no voice or no like words to it, right? Like there's no dialogue balloon attached to this person screaming.
Mhm.
And they get up and like straight dash, like tear through like the doors to the archives and start grabbing things. And they grab, and in this like and like there are people like dialogue balloons surrounding them, asking them like, "Oh my god, are you okay? Like, please stop what you're doing. Like, you were damaging the archives." And they're like, "Security is on its way," and they just keep like, and like there's nothing, and they are throwing punches, they are grabbing people's faces and like slamming them into like walls of the stacks, and they grab this very very old map of Esperanza, and in a panicked rush they run outside to a pale to like an older man in like a black long rimmed hat and a trench coat, um who like takes it and like puts kind of 2 fingers on their forehead, and like they breathe, and they're like, "What just happened? Where am I? What's going on?" And they're like, "Don't worry, it's okay. You Phil, you were afflicted by a condition, and I cured you. You're okay. Everything's fine. You're calm now." And they walk away, and I think as they do, on the wind around this person, right, a wind picks up, and all of this person's screams start to fill the air as the villain known as the Wilhelm scream walks away with a map and is prepared to like steal something giant, like ancient and old and powerful, like to the heart of the university. I think they have found like the location of an old library that holds like an old arcane book of ancient power.
Okay,
Fucking
Uh,
scream.
I love it. I think like
Yeah, so I think the actual fight probably happens like in this old abandoned service tunnel, right? Like, and I think that like what we're seeing is like this person like actually it's probably in like the lower levels of the library, but like they're moving along and people are being afflicted by these like quiet screams, and like that's probably when you get alerted, right? Is that note of like
Yeah.
there's something happening at the library, please stay in your dorms. This sadly effective text message service.
It's like,
So-
please avoid the library again.
Super villain activity at the library, please avoid.
Don't forget
There's
to pay
like-
your parking passes.
There's like a couple of different levels. They're like, okay, it's not like black hole level, but you need to stay away. And I think Cannonball, like, as the villain is doing whatever their plan is, I think Cannonball just kind of shows up in the back panel.
Mm.
And he's not been in a good place lately. His crush got sucked into a black hole.
Sure.
He lost his job. There's been some shit going on. And I think he just looks at him and says, "You're not supposed to take things that aren't yours. Put them
Well-
down or else I'm going to make you."
It is a library, is it not?
Do you have a library card?
Thank you.
I don't like your snippy quips. And he holds up his fingers and like you like we just start to see around you. We start to see that same effect of like screams on the wind around you as this is sort of the fight that is unfolding. I'm gonna roll 1d6. Oh, that is a 6.
Nice.
Nice.
So I think that like part of what happens here is like, and I'll leave this to you to I'm gonna ask you to describe two things, because I think like what is happening here is on two levels, because this is the cool wizard shit issue. And I think what happens is this is simultaneously a fight on like the mind plane and the physical plane of like the screams are happening around you and like terror is surrounding you as you are battling this person who has this magical book in hand already. Because like let's make the stakes as high as we can.
Love it. So I think like physically we see Cannonball like square up basically. He puts his hands up and he's just ready to fight. And then like when we cut inside to the sort of mind plane, he looks a lot weaker and like he's visibly a lot smaller. And he hears the screams and he's thinking back to everything that's happened. And like we get a recap of the panel of him like not being able to grab Jonathan's hand and everything else that's gone wrong. And he just like starts sort of growing in the mind plane and he just says, "No, not again. I'm not letting anything else bad happen to this campus. It's the only place I've gotten an acceptance letter." And then he just charges in the mind plane and is gonna throw hands at Wilhelm Scream.
I love it, and I think that like on the mind plane, like the ghosts of all of these people that whose like minds he has touched are all coming up, and you have to like rush through them, and they're trying to hold you back, and like you fight through them, and in the physical plane, it's just like in the physical plane, like a similar fight is happening. Whereas like he's standing perfectly still in the sort of
thanks.
psychic plane and the mental plane or in the physical plane, he is like defying all of the laws of gravity and physics and like doing some real cloak and dagger stuff as like he's just sort of billowing from place to place and you're throwing punches and missing him until finally like you tear past all of these ghosts in the psychic plane and in one like side by side shot like sock him right in the jaw in both the psychic and physical plane. And like the thing is, I think there's a small sequence. I think the big hero thing here is that there's a small sequence where all of the characters, all of the people like who have been affected, right? Throughout the whole issue, like we've seen him affect like a library worker and a security guard and all of these people, like we see shots of like you pushing past them and then they look up and they just like whisper like, get him, Cannonball. And like we realize that they are all seeing the psychic plane battle as well. And so they see you do the double punch, and it's just a perfect like culmination of a superhero moment.
That's so cool. Yes, I love that.
And that is the end of our issue. All right, time for our
So
next
good.
card.
All right.
Do
let's
I
keep on
take
going.
a renown for that?
You take
Six?
your renown is now up to 7. 8?
Oh.
7.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been forgetting to tell you to take up anytime unless you roll the 1, take up your renown by 1.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So next one is
And also take a point of inspiration, which you can use at any time to tell me to roll an extra dice or to ignore an injury.
ooh, okay. Next one is 8 of clubs, which means we are again back at Esperanza Vineyards, which has had better days. Um, let's see. So I would say here, the kind of scene you're at is, it's been, days, week, who knows, but there's definitely now construction going on back there, as Jimson, the owner, is now kind of like directing people's like, okay, we need to get the vineyard up as fast as possible. I need you to go there. I need you to, I don't care how much money it costs. I need this to like be up so I could get people back here so I could get my money back. And he's also kind of like a little crazed, like his blonde hair is everywhere, and he's just always holding like this very old wine bottle he just has in his hands as he's just like directing people to go everywhere.
I love it. I adore it. And I think what has happened is he's directing people. It's kind of chaos, and they turn around, and there is like a table full, and like they hear a door click. They hear the door click behind them. They're ordering people, and there is a table full of costumed supervillains, and the title of the issue is like Villains Night Off. As first and foremost, there is a villain with very giant metal fists called Knuckle Duster, who is with one of these giant metal fists holding a glass of wine.
So
And like the reality of the situation is, then the reason Cannonball is involved is this is a hostage situation. But I think the fun what we find out is like Knuckle Duster with the giant fist holding this glass of wine is like, now listen, we don't want trouble. We're not here to hurt anybody. Y'all just play along. Serve us our wine, give us a bit of a tour, and we will all have a lovely night. If you have problems, smashes the glass, then we have problems. Picks up another glass. But if everything is cool, we're gonna have a lovely night. And like there's like a bunch of like low-level costumed villains have taken this place hostage specifically just so they can have the night off.
so good.
So if I can take a bit of creative liberty here,
Please.
I think like after Kane revealed himself to be Cannonball during the last scene here, I think like one of the employees who still has his number from when he used to work here just like texts him something like SOS or something to let him know he needs to show up. And Cannonball is just going to like, I want to say like crashes through one of the back walls or something like dramatic. And he's still upset over losing his job, so he's not like overly concerned about not causing collateral damage.
Sure.
And he looks at the group of villains and just says, you could have just bought a tour. It's a lot easier than kidnapping people.
And I think Knuckle Duster just kind of like, breaks the glass laughing. We're super villains. Why would we steal things? Come on. Why buy things? Come on now. You're having fun. We all have fun here. I like you. I like this kid. We all have fun. all right, I'm gonna have to beat your ass now, though. Like we all know that's just, and like the fists light up and start to glow, and he's like, I am gonna have to beat the hell out of you, but like I want it noted that I like you.
Yeah, that's not gonna mean much when I put you. I was gonna say in the ground. He's not gonna say in the ground. When I put you behind bars.
Oh, we're doing the whole behind, but okay, all right. Well then, okay, we're gonna do the whole monologue thing. All right. You're gonna rue the day that you cross Knuckle Duster. Okay, everybody, gather around. We're gonna do a whole thing. Where you're gonna rue the day. You're gonna rue the day that you cross Knuckle Buster. Because I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill your family. That was probably true. I'm gonna kill your family. I'm gonna kill that guy. And I point at the manager, and I'm like, I'm gonna kill him. I got it. You made an enemy now.
I think the whole time Cannonball like mimes looking at a wristwatch. He's just like, "Are you done yet?"
One of the lowly superheroes just like, I thought it was pretty good.
Thank you. We're having
Also-
we're having fun.
He fired me like a week ago, so I'm don't really care a whole lot
Are you-
about him right now.
You
worked for me?
You fired him? Well, now I gotta kill.
Uh,
Now I gotta kill you out of solidarity.
And he just starts running.
Somebody get him. We have to kill him. Somebody get him. I don't like names. And I think like that's when he kind of throws the first punch. So I rolled a 2. So do you want to take an injury or cause collateral damage?
I think I'm gonna take an injury because the way I'm imagining this, just because I love this scene anytime it comes up, is like Cannonball comes in and throws a punch at the same time.
Mhm.
So like his gravity powered fist collides right with
Mm.
Knuckle Duster's fist. Well, I don't know if that should be an injury or collateral damage.
I
from like
kind
a
of like that as an injury,
explosion
especially
thing.
because I think what happens then is like part of like what the fists do kind of happens, and there's like a seismic pulse that like ripples back into your arm and like knocks your arm all out of its socket and like just kind of like messes you up that way, and like it just completely like catches you off guard, and he's like, ha ha, see that? That's called a 1-2 punch because you think it's gonna be a big metal fist, but then there's a whole other thing.
So I think the way that Cannonball kind of wraps this up, Knuckle Duster's he, him pronouns, right?
Yeah.
So I think very My Hero Academia, his arm is like hanging at his side when Cannonball suddenly realizes, oh yeah, I have legs too. And he's just gonna run up and kick Knuckle Duster in whatever he's got between his legs as hard as he can.
I like that, and I think Knuckle Duster specifically like goes up through the ceiling and like embeds in the ceiling, and it's just kind of like kicking his legs. Like, well, that backfired. I didn't see that coming. Touche. And he's dangling. I think immediately like the other like low level super villains here all like stop and they're like, yeah, we're cool. No, we're good. We didn't want to like do the whole thing. We were trying to have a night off. This is not our fight. You two deal with this. And they walk out and Knuckle Duster like falls down and is just like, ugh. All right, gang. We're doing the super villain team. Where'd everybody go?
Supervillains don't have friends.
Apparently. You think you at least have professional courtesy.
And just like I think maybe one of the last scenes, just the manager's like slowly walking back in, still hugging the bottle of wine's like, I don't really have a place to rehire you. I'm sorry.
Oh, really? I start to power up the fist. You're gonna find a place.
No, and walks away.
All right. We're gonna get you a job, kid. Like I said, I like you. Now
And
I have to.
Cannonball's like holding his shoulder and he's like, yeah, I really need health insurance if I'm gonna keep doing this.
Now
Especially in
legally,
California.
now technically, this is the part where I have to run. So this is not hard feelings, but I do, and then just like bolts. Like no pageantry, just like
There's a panel of like Cannonball looking after him, and he's just like, well, he can't get me a job if I put him in jail. And he just like shrugs his one good shoulder.
I love Knuckle Duster a lot. Here's the thing. Having a lot of fun with these dirtbag villains.
They're the most fun to play.
All
These
right,
are very good villains.
give us our next card.
Alrighty. Next one is we're at a King of Diamonds.
This is so face cards are a little bit different and anyone can wear the mask. Normally,
Mhm.
as we've seen, a number cards are all locations that put people in danger. Our face cards are a little bit different. These represent notable people in the world of Esperanza and in the life of Cannonball. And specifically, kings take us somewhere protected, which are the places that ordinary people never go. The halls of the
Mhm.
rich and powerful, those with money and influence and the power to change the world, and who choose not to. These people, hero, are not your friend. So this is someone who is powerful, cold, corrupt, and rich, who we're going to figure out why this is, but they are someone that wants to tear down Cannonball once and for all. Something important about face cards is they do not have to be tied to the particular neighborhood that the suit represents, because the suit kind of takes to represent something different.
Okay.
So I am going to ask Dusty. I am going to ask you to describe the location where we meet this villain, but describe a location that is tied to someone with great wealth and status. Describe where we are and what that location looks like.
Okay. What immediately came to mind, we are back at Esperanza University,
Mhm.
and the scene is kind of like panning in. You see like the destruction of the computer lab, and in the library you see like people, there's like a lot less people milling in and out, and you go to a building and you end up at like the like the history building, or like history majors.
Mhm.
And it zooms into um like going through the classrooms, and zooms in towards a specific um like the lead professor's office, and the door to their office was locked, but you see they are now there is a cracked door, but the door is behind a bookcase, and you see this older gentleman at a table speaking to other people, kind of like, this is hush hush,
Mhm.
no one else should be here.
I love it, and I think the dialogue that we hear. This is going to be a pretty short scene, but the dialogue that we hear is we don't ever actually see this older gentleman's like face, right? It's just kind of like we see them kind of in shadow. We see bits and pieces of them, and it's just like, well, we certainly didn't plan on. Well, of course we didn't plan. How are you supposed to plan on some plucky kid with gravity powers? That is not something that you plan on. That is something that you address. I suggest you learn the difference between the two. Now, I have donated a great deal of money to your university, and so far, the black hole generator that we requested fell through. So far, the tome that we requested acquired, well, that was stopped. Now, granted, there were perhaps more official channels for us to request it, but the truth is, we've put a lot of money in a lot of these experiments. Uh, oh, I'm gonna throw out. I'm gonna ask if it's cool if I throw out a detail about Cannonball's origin here that I think would be a cool thing to add in.
Go for it.
The gravity matrix that we installed seems to have gone missing. The black hole generator that we requested built seems to have exploded. The earthquake engine, well, all right, the earthquake engine actually seems like that was a phenomenal success. That's 1 in 3. We recognize that, right? That's not good. That's not a good return on it. 33% is a poor return on my investment. I suggest that each and every one of you figure out a way to at least bring that number up to 2 and 3. And considering that the black hole generator is already exploded, that gravity matrix, that seems like the best opportunity to bring that number up to a nice even 66 and 2/3. Are we all clear? Wonderful. Before anyone has a chance to react, they go and they close the door and they're like, so I guess we got to get the gravity kit, huh? All right. And that is the end of our scene. Cannonball, you now have an enemy.
Oh, lovely.
What that means is every single time we flip a diamond, this mysterious investor and their piles of cash and their shady experiments, they're going to get involved in the scene somehow. Somebody is going to try and capture you and painfully extract your gravity powers as part of some large investment scheme. What that's going to translate into in play is that whatever the supervillain threat that is naturally caused by that card is still going to come up, but you are going to roll one fewer dice because they are meddling in your plans. So the way that you can stop this is two ways. If you meet the Jack of Diamonds, if you find an ally that is tied to that matches this suit, they can sacrifice themselves to bring down this organization, this illicit group that is trying to destroy you. Or if you flip the Ace of Diamonds, that represents a confidant within the university that will help you bring down this organization from the inside. Those are the two cards that will trigger the resolution of the King of Diamonds and will bring peace and will bring down your enemy. Otherwise, they're just going to be a J. Jonah Jameson a thorn in your side forever.
Love it.
And with that, it's time to flip our next card.
All right, so the last one is going to be the Six of Clubs.
And the Six of Clubs. That puts us back in the Vineyards, if I remember correctly.
It does put us back at the Vineyards.
You've had a rough go of it.
The Vineyards has not had a good time.
At this point, I think we're definitely seeing like signs for closed for the season.
Yeah, closed for the season. It's kind of there. I think now, especially that it's been established that there is that earthquake thing.
Mm-hmm.
We are now kind of going back to the scene of the first like where the chasm happened and we saw that scene. There is still like the overturned golf cart there, and there are people kind of like going over this, and maybe they're like in quote unquote inspecting it, like they have like official looking, those vests, but they are definitely way out of place.
And I think they are like, there's a crane going down into the chasm and it's pulling out boxes and chunks of things. And as one of them pulls up, in a flash, it just starts swinging and there's nothing attached to it. And there's another blur. This is all perfectly timed. The thing that's on here and the backstory of the villain that I've got here actually works out perfectly with what we just established. The pieces, like the thing they're pulling up is gone, and they're very panicked. They're like, look, we all got that. You all saw that email chain from your manager, right? Like we all know what's at stake here, right? Like this is my ass and your ass. This is all of our asses. And so they start scrambling, and like they go to a car that has all of these boxes that are the pieces of this earthquake engine. And like in a flash, one of them is gone. And all they hear is like a chuckle of like, and they're like, uh-oh, that's not good. And like they look again and there's another flash and gone. And then there's just a whisper in one of their ears of like, have you ever heard the story? Another flash of them is gone. Of the unstoppable force. Another one of them is gone. Meeting the immovable object. And then the last box is gone. And like they see, and then there's like this blue and purple blur starts forming and twisting and spinning, and they're watching the earthquake engine kind of like form and kind of like reassemble in the shape of a cannon that is pointed directly at them. As like standing over it is this pure energy figure, right? This blur of this like, it's just like energy glow of blue and purple energy is like standing and floating and they go, well, you see, someone apparently tried it, and the end result was that there was a lot of energy left over. Everyone, I would like to introduce you to Shield and Spear. That's me. I intend, now that I'm alive, now that I'm here, now that I've gained what you things call sentience. I'm gonna do what I do best, and I'm gonna get rich. And they are attempting to steal this earthquake engine for nefarious purposes, unless our friend Cannonball can stop them.
So I think Cannonball has specifically, because a lot of things have been happening out here at the vineyard, specifically that machinery he saw earlier. So I think like he's out after dark, just kind of investigating that because it seems suspicious.
And I think you
And-
hear an explosion. Like, I think you hear the explosion go off as they activate it. I think, for the record, Shield and Spear's pronouns are he, they, I think. And
Gotcha.
I think you hear the explosion go off as he activates it for the first time, like, clearly like, haha, I've built it correctly. And they are just about to like disappear and steal off with this like weapon of mass destruction unless you can stop them.
I think like Cannonball's gonna run in that direction, and when he sees them, he's just gonna like launch himself at them, literally like cannonballing, like he was
Mhm.
going into a pool. Like jumps and pulls his knees up to his chest, and he's just gonna try to like knock them off of the machine. I
And I
don't think
think-
Cannonball knows like what the machine is really, but he knows he doesn't want the villain to have it.
And I think what happens here is what happens here is you dive at them, and like the challenge is the sort of flash issue covered twist here is you dive at them, and it seems like you're dead on, and they don't even move, but like the world is like blue light envelops around you as you kind of crash kind of into them as they are a being of pure energy, and suddenly everything slows down, and you are just floating in the air. And then everything speeds back up and you crash into a rock wall. And then they are standing in front of you like, how are you going to beat someone without a physical body? Mr. Gravity Punch here. Oh, Gravity. Oh, you're the one. I need to knock you unconscious and drag you off and steal your powers. That's going to get me super rich.
I'd really prefer if you did wait from what?
And I think they go into a runner stance and they start running at you and like they bowl you over like with a blast of energy as caused by them running at you and shoulder checking you, and that's kind of where our superhuman battle begins.
Love it.
Now you are in the vineyards and you're injured, so I'm rolling 2 dice and taking the worst result. That's a 6 and a 1.
Oh
Oh
no.
no.
Oh,
So describe to me how you managed to scrape by, and then tell me who you were unable to save.
okay. So there's the workers still around, right? Are they
Mhm.
just like generic like henchmen goons?
Yeah,
or,
I think
like-
they are. I think they are like corrupt organization like henchmen. But I think they are like at the same time like we get some lines of dialogue from them early. That's like I can't lose this job. Like I've got too much. I've got too much at stake here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like you said, Cannonball, his whole thing is like punching really hard. He doesn't have like a strategy for this, so I think there's a long couple of panels of him just like trying to punch things he can't punch until eventually he starts like, I think rather than attacking the enemy, what he does is he's going to attack the machinery
Mm,
to like, if he can't beat the villain, he's gonna break what they came for
I love that.
so
I
that
love
they
that.
at least don't get that. And I think one of the henchmen maybe gets like caught in some sort of explosion or crossfire
that.
from him breaking it.
I love that. And I think there's like a real moment where like the thing explodes and like they kind of like dissipate a little bit in the volume of the explosion, and like you're kind of standing backlit by this fire and you've shown the destruction that you are willing to do here, and they're like, today I learned the living concept of risk assessment. I'm gonna go. And they disappear in a blur. And but there's definitely a moment where like one of these researchers is just like standing over the body of like their coworker, like just completely crushed and ruined by like having somebody that they worked with, a friend of theirs has fought, like died today in service of this job that they didn't really want. And I was like, what now?
So I think Cannonball like runs his hands up over his face and like pushes the mask up to rub over his eyes. And as he does that, he says, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And when he pulls his hands down and opens his eyes, and you get to see him for the first time since he went through that energy field,
Mm-hmm.
his eyes are like the same
Mm,
bright glowing blue of the enemy he just fought.
I like that.
And I don't think he can face that he just essentially killed someone.
Mm,
And he just like yeets himself out of there very much like as if he just pulled a ripcord.
I
Like
love it.
gravity focused at his back and he just shoots out.
And I think the scene that we close on is like, I'm gonna ask you: do you go home, or do you find somewhere, or do you go elsewhere?
I think he goes home, but like before he opens the door, he can't face his mom right now. So he goes to like the top of the apartment complex and just sits with his feet dangling over the edge of the building.
I love it. I love it so much. And so that is the first half of our game. So what happens now? And I'm gonna throw this to Andy and Dusty here. We've got 10 cards in the back half of our deck. One of those cards is the Joker. There's two things we can do here because the author of this game is dead. We can change the rules as we want. This is my reveal that I'm actually a ghost.
Oh, damn,
Um,
nice. Our
we
first
can
ghost
change.
on the stream.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
right.
great.
We can change the rules here a little bit if we like, depending on how we're feeling, time wise, energy wise, etc. We can like keep going through the game as is and flip these 10 cards naturally, and wherever the Joker ends up, it ends up. Or we can just say that it's time for the downfall and then flip through the last few cards as the second half of the game. Whatever people are feeling.
On
Honestly, sorry, I was gonna let you go. But honestly, I feel like we're kind of building towards a sort of natural conclusion, like
Yeah.
as it is. So I wouldn't mind. Like I'm having a lot of fun, but I think like naturally storytelling wise, I think we're getting towards.
I think we're at a point where I think I'm ready to introduce the villain. So I think I'm ready to say like let's just go ahead and make the next card the downfall, because I think I think this is a good moment for like things to escalate to the next level, right? Like now that you're kind of at an emotional low point, I think it's time for the gut punch of things go nuclear.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
That's what I was going to recommend, because it definitely feels like at that, like a very like important, like this scene is part of like a 2-part comic.
Yeah. I think we're about to have the climax. I wouldn't mind a few minutes of a break if we want to step away for a quick bio break and then come back for our downfall. And then we'll play through 2 or 3 scenes in the back half of the game, and then we'll kind of decide when we have the uprising, when we want to have the uprising.
Okay, sounds good.
Does that work? Sound good for everybody?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, stay tuned, everybody, for the back half of the game. This is going to be very good. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Let's get back into it. So we are going to jump straight into our downfall. It is here that the hero is confronted at last by the villain, who makes themselves known by striking deep at the heart of the hero. There is a battle that happens, lives are lost, destruction spreads, and Cannonball, you are beaten back for now. You will come back, heroes always do, but this is your downfall. So this is the moment where the villain triumphs. This is the height of the villain's power. And to figure out who the villain is, I'm going to ask each of us some questions, starting with our hero, starting with Cannonball. Cannonball, what piece of yourself most scares you, and how do you see that amplified in the villain?
What piece of Cannonball most scares him is his destruction.
Mm.
He's left a lot of collateral damage, both in the way of people dying and like property damage along the way. And that scares him the most. And I think the villain just like Cannonball cares about the city, the villain doesn't.
Yeah.
And that power without the care is terrifying.
I love it. What weakness, mental, physical, emotional, or otherwise, are you afraid will be discovered, and how does the villain use it?
I mean, I gotta say that my weakness is my mom.
Mm.
She's already like told people like Cannonball is my son. So like I personally think it's a cool moment like when the heroes loved ones get used as some sort of leverage.
Sure. I love it. Okay, I've got exactly how I want that to work, and I've got a
I
follow-up
figured you
moment to
would.
that. As soon as I hear it, like I hear the two moments. So my next questions are for the city of Esperanza. What part of Cannonball most scares you, and how is the villain the worst version of that?
I think it's going to be very similar. That this is definitely the destruction that Cannonball has been causing, in the the consequences of him doing good. Because Cannonball's very much thing is like punch hard. Doesn't that work? Punch harder. And we've already seen some destruction, like at the computer lab. That wasn't his fault, but the people saw him there.
Right.
And so that, and like the vineyards, people can't go to the vineyards anymore. And I think the villain is someone that is going to be taking that to their advantage,
Yeah,
knowing
sure.
that Cannonball could only punch harder.
I love that. I love that. I love that a lot. And so I've got three questions for me. What power do you crave, and how are you going to seize it? My villain, my ultimate nemesis here, wants I'm going to say. So actually, I'm gonna answer this in a scene because I have an origin scene for my villain, for my nemesis that I'm gonna play out here, and it is because this is part 2 of the comic we had last issue. We've got Cannonball sitting on a roof. Meanwhile, we cut to a dark lab. We cut to a lab where there's just a bunch of like exasperated techs who are just like over it. They're like, the shield and spear experiment was a failure. That puts us down to what, 25%? That's terrible. We can't possibly deliver a 25%. And then there's a buzzing through a wall, and a blue and purple glowing figure is like leaning capriciously on a wall, like, well, actually, it's more like 50. You see, because I was pretty successful. And 2, and like they kind of glow, and there is like a matrix design, there's like a tech design in them, and they're like, well, 2, your gravity matrix project literally crashed into me, so really, I mean, depending on how much you're willing to spend, you could actually have two incredibly successful projects right now. And like the lab techs are just looking, and they look at each other, and like the last thing we see is like we see one of them start to grab a checkbook, and then that's the end of that question. Is the power that they want is Cannonball's power, and they're going to seize it by putting it into someone. what insurmountable odds will the hero have to overcome to defeat you? Not only are they going to use your loved ones to your disadvantage and to against you as a weapon, but they also you're going to have to overcome your own powers, right? This is peak Marvel movie. Your villain is the worst doppelganger of you, but taken to the extreme as imaginable, as they have now perfected the formula and the matrix and the procedure to make you. They now have a cannonball, but better. And what hidden weakness do you hope the hero never finds? I hope they never find that, like, I'm gonna invert the question of like what your weakness is and give it the exact opposite. No one in this organization, we've seen this. We saw this last time with the researchers. No one in this organization, no one in this allegiance, right? The head of this company, this corporation, this rich bastard that has commissioned all of this. No one has any loyalty here. There is no family here. There is no community here. It is a bunch of people doing a job, and the second any of that turns, people are going to jump. And like if and you know if and without that community, without that support, this person's powers are going to flare out. They are going to lose control, and they are going to fall short. Like that is the weakness that they have that can be exploited, is that unlike Cannonball, no one cares if this villain like succeeds or not. There is no one in this villain's corner. And now that we've answered our questions, it is time for me to introduce myself in all of my terrible glory. I will describe my powers, equal in measure to the heroes. I will describe my grand plans and describe how, when the battle comes to me, I am able to overpower the hero. I think what we see is like a city street outside of like out in the outside of Esperanza University. I think like kind of bleeding into downtown, right? Somebody like steps out of a car, like they open the back of a truck and somebody steps out, and they are wearing what I would describe their outfit is, picture Cannonball's outfit in your head, and picture not the movie version of that outfit, but the 2001 era movie version of that outfit. So the X-Men movie version of that outfit, where it's all black leather and piping, and they've completely like redesigned the outfit to make it look cool, but in doing so have removed all of the color and beauty and wonder that is that outfit. That's what this person is wearing. When you step out, they've got big giant blue like kind of Blue Beetle goggles on, and they are walking around, and they look up and they turn around, and like the researchers are kind of like watching them with tablets, and they hold up a hand and they shove both of those researchers into walls. And like what we see is that they do not, unlike Cannonball, they do not have to touch these researchers. They merely exert it, and they have the power to control gravity outside of themselves. And the researchers go flying into a wall, and they're like, your services are done here. I don't need you. And they hold up a hand and they gesture, and they pick up the truck behind them, and they crush it, and they throw it aside, and they're like, I don't need to be contained. I don't need this. And they start walking, and like they come up to one of the this is a college campus, so they come up to one of the college security phone kiosks, and they pick up the phone. They're like, I don't know who I have to talk to get a text message out on the wire, but tell Cannonball that everyone that he loves is going to die a horrible death. Click. And like proceeds to continue walking, and I think like makes a show of it, right? Similar to how Erosia did, like makes a show of it, like picks up some parked cars and smashes them together, and is completely like disaffected as he's like walking around. He's like, I don't know who has Cannonball's phone number, but if you wanted to contact them, now would be a good time to do so. And like I think I like people are scrambling. There's panic in the streets, and Cannonball, how do you arrive on the scene?
I think, like, with this villain being so straightforward, I
Mhm.
think Cannonball does the same in that he runs and just like skids to a halt. Because with his gravity powers, I feel like he can almost density control
Mhm.
himself in a
Sure.
way. So like he runs not quite at like speedster speed, but very fast and like leaves like trails behind himself as he skids to a halt. And we get like that good panel of like the two of them looking at each other down the street. And Cannonball looks at them and just says, "Who are you and what do you want?"
You can call me Gravity Well. What I want is to close the loop on an experiment gone wrong, on a mistake, on a missed decimal, on a Monday morning error. And I think like they're saying this as they're floating towards you Magneto style until they finally like drop down and like now they're like looking right at you and they give you they're like I am here to put an end to a blemish on the face of my organization. That and they like hold up their finger is you and they give you the little like finger flick and you just crash right into a wall like just hurled into a wall and then they keep like walking towards you like you see we're not entirely sure when the gravity matrix was activated and they pick you up and throw you through a building but mistakes were made and that's business so it is my job to fix those mistakes as you can see, and they like pick up two cars with their gravity powers. I am everything that you should be, and they smash the cars like in, and you're able to like maybe like bubble yourself or like hold them
Mhm.
at bay, but like they're smashing cars on you, and they're like, I'm everything you should be. I'm the potential that you are wasting. And I think like the last thing that happens is like they walk over and they're like, now you could now look, I'm not going to say I'm not compassionate. You are a kid. I'm going to let you just leave and disappear. And I think like at that moment your phone buzzes and like they're like, "But in case you're thinking of maybe doing the whole hero thing, I'd answer your phone right now." And like you hit the button on the phone and you hear your mom like, "Honey, there's a glowing blue person here. Is this a supervillain thing?"
I think Cannonball slowly stands up, like phone pressed to his ear, and he looks at Gravity Well and just says, "Just what what do you want? You're leave my mom out of this. She hasn't done anything."
And I think at that moment, through the phone, you hear at that moment through the phone, you hear screams and panic, but it's very specifically Shield and Sphere's panic, and you'd hear she's throwing things. I did not expect her to throw things at me. What is happening? And like you just hear panic, and like I think like the phone just you hear like there's a fight, and you hear the phone like we're all good. I got this, honey. You do your thing. Don't back down. Don't let them use me as leverage. Click. And like right before the click, you just hear more screaming from Jill. Ah, stop it!
I love this mom. This mom's the best.
Yeah, that is just gonna steal Cannonball's resolve, and like he looks Gravity Well in the eyes and just like throws his phone through like the side of it, like
Mhm.
the open side of a building, and like there's a thought bubble of, ah, crap, we're gonna have to replace that. And then he's just gonna charge forward and try to punch the shit out of Gravity Well.
And Gravity Well like catches your fist effortlessly and like squeezes and like crushes your hand, and then like throws you aside and is like, I mean, I gave you a chance. I don't think I'm not the bad guy here. I gave you the perfect chance to. It's fine. It's fine. And like a school or like a city bus just slams on top of you as they kind of like wash their hands and walk away, and they're like, all right, so and they like the last thing they do is actually, I'm gonna say maximum villain moment, maximum heal moment. They pick up your phone, click it, dial the number, and like, all right, so the kid's taken care of, so what's next on my to-do list? And we get a montage of them like doing evil, like doing evil hero shit is what I would describe it as, right? Like doing the real like dark hero, like the evil robot from RoboCop that's like violence is the first option, like villain, like going too far stuff in at the behest of an evil corporation. And that is when we start to flip some cards. Now, your renown at the time of our break, your renown was 10. You were pretty beloved by the community. And this is when I reveal what renown does, and it's when I reveal that renown is the meanest mechanic in the game.
Oh,
Oh no.
I'm going to take 10 cards out of this deck right now.
oh no,
Oh.
that's a lot.
It's all of them.
Yeah,
But I'm going
it's
to
all
take
the
all of
cards.
them. I'm going to take all of the remaining cards, throw them away. If we were playing a full game, we would shuffle the deck with any cards that weren't removed in this moment, because these cards never come back. The damage to the city caused by the villain in this moment can never be recovered. You know, we can shuffle back in the other cards caused by collateral damage, the cards of the people that you saved. We can shuffle all of that back into the deck. This damage in this moment can never be healed. And at this moment, I'm going to ask the hero to take a moment of silence to deal with your failure, and for the city to take a moment of silence to mourn your losses. When you're both ready, let me know, and we'll move into the next phase of the downfall.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then here's what's going to happen now. I'm going to turn this to the city. And whether you're speaking directly, whether you are the embodiment of Esperanza speaking directly to the hero, or you are individual people within the city of Esperanza, you can choose who speaks these things. But it is now your job to tell the hero what they need to hear, to let them know that it's time to come back and fight again. Tell them why you need them. Tell them why you believe in them. And hero, when you are ready, you're going to tell the city to shuffle the Joker into the remaining cards of the deck, which is technically 0, and we'll move right into our uprising. But when you're ready, tell the city that you're ready for the uprising once you've heard what they have to say.
For this, I don't think there's anyone better except for Kane's mom. And there's this moment after, like, Kane dusted himself off, went home and found his mom fine. She was fine. His mom is probably, to Kane, probably a bigger hero than he'll ever be. And he is not wanting to, for him, the city, this was his doing. And he doesn't want to hurt the city, doesn't want to hurt anyone else anymore. But his mom sits him down, maybe like with, I don't know, maybe a cup of hot cocoa, Kane's like favorite drink. And it's just like, honey, you have these moments where the world is against you, but you have shown yourself so much, and I cannot be more proud of the boy I raised. You have faced adversity. You weren't that good at keeping the secret. I'll let you know. In your outfit, I'm glad I was able to put it up. You like the new mask, it has like the bright colors on it. But you can't let this stop you. And you're gonna have to excuse my language, honey, but that person was a bastard, telling you that you're not worth it, telling you that you are not enough. You are more than enough. So take your time, but when you're ready, I need you to go out there and kick their ass, honey. And she pats you on the shoulder and goes make dinner.
Is it my injured shoulder?
Yeah.
Okay. I think like there's a scene where Cannonball stands up and goes to the door after her. And like we think he's gonna follow her out and have this big like hero moment. But he just shuts the door and he turns around and leans against it and like sinks down. And there's a long moment of him just sitting there, like head on his knees. And like he looks up and there's pictures on the wall that are him and Jonathan and like him with his mom when he first got his job at the vineyard and like they went out to dinner to celebrate him having a job and him like in various places across the city that he like walks over and like runs his hand along the wall and like I think after that he just turns and like no he doesn't turn, he just like leans his head against the wall.
Can I throw in a moment right here?
Yes,
That is a moment, purely self-indulgent moment from my heart at this moment.
go for it.
I think what happens is you lean your head against the wall, and like there's this moment where it just looks, it's just like this long link. It's just this panel of your close up, and then the next panel is identical, but there's a word bubble from off screen, and it's just, so what? We're just gonna sit here and cry then? And we cut over and sitting in your windowsill against like a Green Goblin style hover glider is sitting behind the wall, is sitting there, and they have specifically a box of chocolates because if we're gonna go full queer romance here. They've got a box of chocolates, and they're like, so what? We're just gonna sit here and weep? That's not the Danger Days way.
So
Oh,
Cannonball turns and looks over at Danger Days and like he wipes the tears out of his eyes with his thumb and says, you know, the Danger Days way kind of sucks. Nobody really listens to MCR anymore.
Well,
But you're right.
well,
I hate to say that, but you're right.
I mean, two things. One, I'm going to shoot you with a tank for that comment. Two, thank you for acknowledging I'm right. And three, and they throw the box of chocolates on the Cannonball's bed, and they're like, three, once we're done stomping down Gravity Well into the dirt, I'm gonna take that as a no that you don't want to go see them in the reunion concert because I have 2 tickets.
Well, I mean, if you've already got the tickets, I wouldn't want to make you waste your money.
All right, fair, good. I'm gonna convert you just as a heads up. This is gonna be great. And they and with that, like, they're like, I'm gonna go wrangle up a bunch of angry overdressed weirdos to go fight some of the other angry overdressed weirdos. That way you can at least focus on the one angry overdressed weirdo. How's that sound?
Yeah. Yeah. You take care of my light work. I'll take care of the heavy.
Sounds good. Don't get yourself killed, cutie.
You
They hop
either.
they hop onto their glider and like fly off.
Love it.
And with
so
that,
good.
traditionally what would happen is we would flip through the remaining, we would reshuffle the cards in the deck. I want to answer 3 questions because we ran out of cards before we go to the uprising. Traditionally, we would reshuffle the deck, play out a few more scenes, shuffle the other Joker into the deck, and then do the uprising whenever the other Joker came back to kind of let us look at the city in its damaged state. But at this moment, I'm ready to just go into the uprising. So I'm going to ask each of us one question. We're going to go
Okay.
through a crisis, and then we're going to kick right into the uprising.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask each of us a question, starting with our hero. Hero, what is your greatest fear for the city? Describe how it comes to pass.
I think my greatest fear for the city is that, because this whole thing has been about like trust and support and having people behind you. So I think thematically, it's got to be the city becoming fractured. Like we've got our 4 districts, but they
Yep.
all kind of meld into one another, and everybody, like, it's a mostly peaceful city, all things considered.
Mhm.
I think like my
all
greatest
things
fear,
considered.
my greatest fear is like mass chaos, basically.
Okay.
And I think like as Gravity Well is doing this, it's like the tipping domino towards like people see that like Gravity Well can't be stopped, so they start feeling more bold and like just rampant crime all across the city.
I like that. I like that a lot. So my question for me, the villain, what power do you hope to obtain, and describe how you seize it? We want to, the corporation wants to crush, I'm just going to call them the corporation. The corporation wants to crush all competition. And I think like the crime that we're seeing is like, there's some degree of just like random superhero crime, right? Like Erosia's we just see her picking pockets. We see her like breaking into a vineyard and being like, no one here to stop me now. But like we do also see like Knuckle Duster breaking into like a lobby and smashing things up to like damage another like company, and like grabbing like people, and like we see kind of people in suits walking in behind them being like, I believe this is time for a corporate acquisition. And like that is their goal, is they are using all of the people, like they are using things to consolidate and to make this like a power grab, right? Like painting a picture of chaos just so that they can consolidate their corporate power. And last but not least, a question for the city. How do you hope the people of the city will rise and walk in the steps of the hero? Describe how that happens.
So I think for this, like how everyone here seeing the destruction of the university and the destruction of the vineyard, and realizing that though Cannonball caused destruction, they were always there to try to stop it. That train outside the Half-Baked Yolk, that could have been so much worse if they were not there. And so they see that all these people are going out, and then there's like a mass like text chain, mass post on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, like, Cannonball, we need you. They want you, like, we know you could do this. You need to stop this. And like, there's TikToks, there's, everyone's on Twitter, like, we got your back. And this is like, you'll see this coming from every feed on his new phone that his mom got him.
I love it. I love it so much. And then that brings us straight into our uprising. So the uprising is the big hero's comeback. You are going to save the day here, hero. This is the moment where your losses hang heavy in the air, but this is when you are in the villain's place of power. You are going to stand tall. The city is going to tell you what you need to hear to save the day, and then you are going to do it. So we begin. I take the reins and set the scene here to change up the pace a little bit. I get to describe our ultimate place of power. I get to describe where the final showdown happens. I think what happens specifically is like amidst all of this, I think a little detail tying into the villain weakness stuff that I threw out earlier is there's a series of viral TikToks of like a lab worker in part of the hashtag like Cannonball we need you like movement. There's like a lab worker that's like, hey everybody, I'm here, I'm at Harborcrest Applied Technologies, and I'm pretty sure they're the super villains that are trying to kill Cannonball. I don't know for sure, and they pan over and like what they show on camera is just Shield and Spear. Shield and Spear is there, like counting dollar bills. Like, this is great. This is a great time to be a supervillain. And they're like, that seems like proof, right? And like these videos start to go big, and it's like how you're able to figure it out is that like nobody in this organization like has any loyalty. There's like a very clear moment where you kind of like you get there and like we think that you're gonna have kind of a mini boss fight against Shield and Spear, and like they start to power up and they kind of look in your eyes and they're like, oh, you're for real here. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna go. I really don't. I'm not really. And then they just they're just like they just zap out. They're just like, no, not today. I'm not interested. And you come into the main office of Jackson Harborcrest. Jackson Harborcrest, older. The visual reference I have in my head is David Lynch. So like the big swoop of gray hair, suit, thin tie, is just sitting around like spinning, like is like, and I think Gravity Well is like arms crossed in front of him, like, and they're just like, what oh, did the mistake come back? Gravity Well, I thought you said that this was managed. Is this going to be an issue? And Gravity Well's like, no, Mr. Harbor. It's you can call me Jackson. I'm not that kind of manager. And they're like, no, Jackson, I'm gonna fix this. And Gravity Well starts to crack his knuckles and like starts to pick things up, and it's just kind of muttering like, I'm not gonna let you make me look bad in front of my boss. I'm gonna do what that generator did to that partner of yours, that friend of yours, whoever that was, that meaningless peon, and I'm going to crush you. I'm going to crush you like the gravity generator did to that meaningless peasant. And they start cracking their knuckles and like picking things up. And that is what has set the scene. And now I'm going to throw it over to the city. Tell the hero what they need to hear. Name the people they did save. Tell them how they helped make the world a better place. Guide them, encourage them, and help, and tell them what they need to hear so they can stand tall when they need to hear it most.
Okay. What I really like in this scene, that they're in this office that and you're saying there's already that person kind of like, yeah, there's this viral TikTok, this person's here. And then maybe in Harborcrest's office, there's like all these screens around the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly they start popping to life.
Mm-hmm.
And you see videos that someone is feeding into them, like maybe the scientist put the TikTok of people cheering Cannonball on. You see Danger Days over there, just like saying, you fucking got this. Knuckle Duster's like saying, kick his ass or I'll go over there and kick them for you. Erosion, just like they show there, they're like, they don't care that much. But
I think there's a moment where Erosia, like somebody's filming and like, Erosia, did you hear Cannonball? And they're like, well, yeah, he better win. It's gonna make me look like shit if he doesn't.
Exactly. And all these people are here, and then you start looking around, you see faces, you see your mom is on one of them cheering you on. You see the students that were that you were able to save at the tech lab. You see the people from the library. You even see your shitty boss like there, just like, he's like, get here, I'll give you some wine. I'll give your mom some wine. And they're all there just like cheering you on, knowing that you are there for the city when they needed it the most. You're not only the hero they need, hero they deserve.
And with that, hero, this is your moment. Describe how you fight, describe how you win, and describe how you save the city.
So Cannonball looks at Jackson and Gravity Well and just says, the only mistake was that you let me walk away. You let me come back. And I've come back to kick your ass. Not for my city, not for me, but for our city. And he points at each of the screens and he says, because those emo millennials that can't get past their music, they deserve better. And Knuckle Duster, he deserves better. Those college students deserve better. My mom damn sure deserves better. Erosia. Okay, well, the city deserves better than you. And Cannonball is going to throw everything he has at this fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like it's a long drawn out fight. The office gets destroyed pretty much just by sheer force of gravity. And I think the way this ends is that Gravity Well is like in front of, because I assume this has got like the big floor to ceiling windows on
for
one
sure.
side.
Big Mr. Burns office energy.
Yeah. And Cannonball throws himself at them and they go crashing through the windows.
Mm.
And Cannonball just accelerates as hard as he can down into the ground.
Dang. And I think you are I think the scene that we get, if I may throw out a scene before we cut to our final questions.
Please do.
Again, because I'm trash. There's this moment where you are hurtling towards the ground, and this is on like the 75th floor, right? Like this is at the top of a skyscraper. You're building momentum. You are artificially increasing your momentum. It seems for certain that like this is it. Like you have kind of like there's this moment where you're like, I'm not going to be able to like stop my fall here. I'm accepting this might just be it. And that's when you get swooped. And Gravity Well falls, and Gravity Well crashes, and there's an explosion, and you are held Lois Lane style on the glider as Danger Days is just like, now tell me, how is that for a romantic gesture?
And I think Cannonball doesn't say anything. He just looks at him and like leans up to plant a kiss on his cheek. Cannonball doesn't have words, but
I love it. And so we end with 3 final questions. We end until next time. With the villain defeated, the city is at peace. There will be another villain in time. There always is another issue to sell, but for now there is quiet. For now there is only a city, and for now the hero can rest. City. Describe how the city recovers from the villain's actions, and describe how the hero's influence makes the city a better place, and how their legacy is carried on in the hearts of its people.
So I think with this corporation has not only been outed, but they've like lost their power. So the people are sort of realizing is that company is now gone like defunct. Like people realize like there's foreclosure signs everywhere. And it's like the city is now like coming back onto their feet. And like everyone knows that they could sleep easier at night, that they could go about their days knowing that they have this hero there, that Cannonball will be there.
I love it. So my question is describing how the city mourns its loss and describing the shadow still cast by its villain. I've got 2 scenes here. They're going to be very quick, but they're very, very good, and I'm very, very excited. How they mourn their loss is they kind of have to rebuild, right? Like there's a long recovery process, right? Like there was a lot of damage to the city caused by both Gravity Well, but also just everything else that has happened. I think there's a humongous relief effort, particularly around the vineyards. And I think like the vineyards kind of change. We'd always kind of describe them as sort of like elitist and like a little bit classist. And I think like a lot of the, because of a lot of the relief efforts are kind of also tied to sort of like community action, mutual aid fund, the like relief efforts. A lot of the vineyards kind of shift into being more sort of community spaces. Like they sort of integrate into the community in sort of a broader like way, into a healthier way, as opposed to sort of the divisions that have existed previously. But as for the shadow of the villain, what we see is we see in like a grand ballroom, one of these long tables. Erosia is sitting by herself and eating, and it's just completely elaborate when she hears like a door smash off in the distance, and she's just like, I paid a lot of money for that door. This better be good. And she turns, and Knuckle Duster is there, like, hey, you want to team up and rough up Cannonball? It's gonna be fun. And she's like, I'm not gonna do some obnoxious cliche 2-on-1 villain team up. Oh no. This is way better than a 2-on-1 team up. And Shield and Spear appears directly over his shoulder. It's a whole supervillain team thing. It's gonna be great. I'm so excited. And Rosia's like, now see, this I could get behind. There's potential here. There's real energy here. And last but not least, we ask a question to the hero. Hero, describe for us how, for an all too brief moment, the hero can rest. How they celebrate their victory, they spend their downtime, they pay their respects to those that helped them succeed and those that fell along the way, and then at last, how the hero rests.
So I think we start with Kane at, like, we get a montage. This isn't all in the same day, but Kane, like, at the cemetery, and he, like, leaves a picture of himself with Jonathan on the gravestone, marking not where he's buried because he got sucked into the gravity well, but like symbolically. And then there's like another scene where like he takes his mom out for lunch and he pays, and like they just have a nice little time. And then finally, I think we see him and Danger Days riding off on the jet thing that Danger Days had to the MCR concert that they talked about. And like as they're there in their floor seats having just like a nice concert time, just getting into it and singing along, I think, if you'll allow me, I think Knuckle Duster shows up, and Cannonball looks over at Danger Days and says, well, guess we really should have expected this one. You ready for another team up?
Can it at least wait until intermission? And that's game. That's game. That's Anyone Can Wear the Mask. We did it. We crushed it.
Oh yeah, it was. That was a fucking roller coaster.
Oh, that was so
that was
good.
Great. Thank you so much for playing this game. This rules.
Before we sign off, Jeff, I want to give you a chance to plug your stuff one more time. Tell people where they can buy this amazing game, all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find all of my work, my podcasts, games, all the cool stuff that I do at jeffstormer.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Party of One Pod, and you can pick up Anyone Can Wear the Mask at jeffstormer.itch.io/mask.
All right. Thank you for joining us. That was a hell of a lot of fun. I cried, I laughed, I felt things. Join us next week, same time, same channel, where we will go back to our Headspace, I believe. Dusty confirm.
Yes. Headspace.
We will be back for Headspace, joined or GM'd by the incomparable Reed and our non-binary cast. It's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, follow us on Twitter at TTRPG Roulette. Join our Discord. If you like this shirt I'm wearing with the Tabletop Roulette logo on it, we do have merch at ttrpgroulette.threadless.com. It's very soft, very comfy. 10 out of 10 recommend. Yeah, thank you for joining us, Jeff. That was so fucking much fun.
Thank you for having me. This was great. This shredded. This ruled.
All right.
All right.
Bye. Stay lucky. That's our sign off. Yeah.
Stay lucky.
Stay lucky.